So this is the first video in my Shift Workers Q&A series, and I'm actually quite annoyed that I'm having to do this in the first week of January because it's not a New Year's resolution. I just wanted to do it for a while, and this is the first time that I've actually had time to do it. So yeah, basically each week you guys can ask me questions, Instagram, Facebook, email me back. You can ask me a question. I'm not going to bite. I'm just going to give free information to help you guys essentially. If you do like the video, make sure you subscribe, hit the thumbs up button so you don't miss any. And if you want to, you don't have to. I also don't really care. You can turn on notifications. There's a bell somewhere. I've seen other people do it. There should be a bell. You can do that, and then every time I post a video, it'll say, boom, there's a wee video. Shift Workers Q&A, all your questions, nutrition, training, answered. Now, the whole thought process behind this new series was basically just to go over frequently asked questions that I get asked by shift workers on a weekly or sort of bi-weekly basis. We're going to start off with the most popular questions, and then each week you guys have the opportunity to ask me other questions that I'll then cover on the next week's Q&A. So probably one thing that comes up most frequently is missing gym sessions, and that pretty much ties in with how often should I train. So if you're working shifts and you're missing gym sessions regularly, it's probably a good idea to try and cut some of those sessions back. So for myself, I know some of you guys will be different emergency service workers. For myself, I was in the police for 7 years. I worked loads and loads of different shifts. When I was on shift, I found that training 4 times over the course of the week was suitable and manageable for myself. And that's the main thing. If your training is not suitable and manageable, there's no point in you sticking to that sort of program. If you can't realistically train 6 days over the course of the week, don't set yourself up for like a 6-day training split, because then you're just setting yourself up for failure, and you'll probably feel a wee bit shite about missing some of the gym sessions at the end of the week. So in terms of training frequency, the one thing I would say to you is look at how many days you can train realistically, and then start by reducing that by 1. So if you think, well, I could probably get into the gym 4 times over the course of the week, set yourself up for 3 times to start with. There's no hassle, there's no issues with adding an extra day on once you get into the routine of going 3 times over the course of the week. In terms of progress and even just muscle development, to keep it really simple, try and hit each muscle group twice over the course of the week, and try and aim for a minimum of 10 sets per muscle group. So that could be an upper session, a lower body session, and then a full body session towards the end of the week, and try and factor in different lifts and different movements that are going to allow you to target each muscle group twice over the course of the week. If you can train 4 days a week, that could be an upper session, a lower session, an upper session, and a lower session. So you're still training 4 times, you're hitting each major muscle group twice over the course of the week. And that's pretty much all you need. You can then start to get really specific with your training. You can look at adding in slightly more volume for weaker body parts. So if your chest is lagging, for example, or if your legs are lagging, or if your arms are lagging and they're not quite as developed as the other body parts, you can cut back on some of the chest volume and add in slightly more arm training. You can cut back on some of the upper body work and just focus more specifically on the lower body once you can start to see which areas you need to work on a wee bit more to make good, steady progress with the physique. Now, number 2, this is the one that I am asked quite frequently as well. And I think this comes from If It Fits Your Macros. Now, If It Fits Your Macros was around 10, 12, 13 years ago when I first started producing fitness content online. It's not a new thing, it's basically just macronutrients. So macronutrients, for any of you that don't know, are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Now, for anyone who's looking to build muscle and adapt and develop their physique, the only macronutrient you should really specifically focus on in order to make it really simple for yourself is protein. Now, you can basically have a calorie target and a protein target. That's what I have, that's what the majority of my clients have. If I don't track carbohydrates and fats, you probably don't need to either. And that's the way to look at it. If you see somebody like myself or somebody like my clients who are getting into really, really good shape with it, they probably aren't going to be tracking macronutrients. Now, you can do, but let's say, for example, you had a protein target and a calorie target. Your protein target is 150 grams over the course of the day, and you've got a 2000 calorie target. Once you hit that 150 grams of protein, the rest of your calories are essentially going to be made up from carbohydrates and fats anyway. And most of the time, if you really break it down over the course of the week, the majority of people are going to have relatively decent carbohydrate to fat ratios anyway, if you really look through their diet. It just overcomplicates things though. If you were to get home from a back shift and you had, let's say, 20 grams of protein left and 400 calories, it's very easy to fit that in. It's very easy to fit something in. You can go, right, okay, well, that's going to tick off my protein target, and that's going to bring me up to my calorie target for the day, and that's you done. Instead of maybe getting home and having 20 grams of protein, 42 grams of carbohydrates, and 30 grams of fat, it just overcomplicates it when you don't need to overcomplicate it. Now, number 3, which is going to be the last one for today, I'll try and keep these to 3 per video to keep them relatively short so that it can keep your attention. And if you get any other questions, just pop them in the comments below, and you can shoot them over to me on Instagram, Facebook. If you've got my number, you can send me them on there as well, I guess. So number 3, and I understand why this one comes up, but number 3 is meal timing, and does meal timing matter? Now, to keep it short, the answer is no. Meal timing does not matter at all. It can do once you get slightly more advanced with training, looking at possibly pre-workout and post-workout nutrition windows. But again, that's really going to be performance-based. So for somebody like myself, I could look at my carbohydrate intake pre-workout, because I know that if I have slightly more carbohydrates prior to getting into the gym and training, I'm able to lift heavier weights and I'm able to progress those weights through different rep ranges as well. So for somebody like myself, I could then look at meal timing in that way, but only from a performance benefit. In terms of the physical transformation, in terms of being in a calorie deficit or being in a calorie surplus, it's not going to make a difference. If you think of, let's say for example, you had a packet of crisps, right? So a packet of crisps is what, 130 calories, 161 calories, depending on what crisps you've got. Now, you could have 161 calories in the morning, or you could have 161 calories in the evening. It's still 161 calories. So if you're in a calorie deficit at the specific calories that you're on, and those 161 calories fit in with your calories, you're still in a calorie deficit. So the fact that you've had them slightly later on doesn't actually make a difference. All right. If you did find this video useful, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, like button down below. And again, if you get any questions, pop them in the comment section, drop me a message on Instagram, drop me an email if you want to email back to this. And again, if you've got my number or Facebook, you can just shoot me a message over there, and I'll incorporate those questions into next week's Shift Workers Q&A.